Okay, so no Cam yet, right? No Orisa yet? No AJ yet? No Denise Ann yet? No David yet? No Jessica yet? No Mateo yet? No Lincoln yet, right? All righty, happy Wednesday to all of you. As I said yesterday, I will go over demand with you, specifically the two assignments that we had you do, talking about just general demand as it relates to maybe a car search, and we'll show you some instances and go over that. So if you turn that in, you can check your answers with us. If you hadn't finished, you can finish as we do it. And if you haven't started, you can do that as well with us as we do that. I'll also go over the determinants of demand again. So remember, we have change in income, change in consumers' attitudes, change in the price of a complementary product, change in the price of a substitute product. So I'll go over the determinants of demand review with you as well. Then we'll play our review game, and you can have the rest of the period to do the Unit 4 test, which will start showing up in Aries next Monday, the 19th at 3:15. Remember that this quarter grading period ends a week from Friday on the 23rd. So everything from this quarter has to be in by 3:15 that day as we move into our last quarter. So if you go ahead and click into your modules, go ahead and get down to module 13 and open up this page here, the demand case study. All right, so yesterday you were given a scenario, 23 years old, you're looking at buying a new car, and they asked you to read this article here by Carfax. And so Carfax basically went over some things to be aware of when you're buying a new car. One is this fact of depreciation. And within a year, this Carfax article talks about how your vehicle is going to drop in value 20% in the first 12 months. And then on average, right, you're going to lose 15% of value every year thereafter. So a 5-year vehicle, it tells you, that sold for $40,000 when it was new is going to be worth $16,000 at the end of 5 years. And depending on how many years you financed the balance of what you owe, that's something that you want to be aware of. 5-year-old vehicle that sold for $30,000 is only going to be worth $12,000. So there's a number of reasons why people look at something besides a new car. So in your case study, it talks about, does the article increase or decrease your demand for a new car? Why or why not? So you can put increase or decrease, you just need to have a reason why. Some people only buy new cars. Some people only buy vehicles that are relatively new but not brand new because they get a discount off of the price. 2, it asks you, unlike new cars, new houses usually increase in value over time. What is the difference? Why do new cars depreciate? Well, this is a simple case of demand, right? This simple case of demand. When you look at the housing market, and the housing market again is booming, but when you look at the housing market, there are basically a number of different people vying for that same unit. So one of the things I always talk about when we're looking at cars versus houses, why do houses go up in value? Why do cars not? There are, right, more people in the state of California today than there were 5 years ago. You cannot say the same about the number of houses, right? You can't build the number of houses for the increase in population because you just would not have enough resources to do that. New cars, on the other hand, there are more new cars produced every year than there are people available to buy them. And so when your car goes down in value, that's because there's a number of different options for other people to consider. It's sort of like a substitute product. When there's a number of substitute products available, it makes your product less valuable. Housing is not the same, right? Housing is not the same. So the difference between new houses going up in value as opposed to new cars going down in value, it's number one, the number of people. Number two, the number of units available of each good. New houses are more scarce than new cars. And so because of that, new cars tend to depreciate. So that's what I would have put for 2. On number 3, it talks about the interest rate for an auto loan is actually closer to 8% instead of 4%. Will this increase or decrease demand for new cars? We talked about yesterday the law of demand. So when we look at the law of demand, right, when the price goes up, demand goes down, right? We talked about that. So when the price goes up, demand goes down. And that really should be quantity demanded. Quantity demanded. So if you were thinking, right, that you were going to get a car loan at 4%, but it actually goes up to 8%, that means the price has gone up. Price goes up, we can assume that demand will go down. So that's what you should have put for 4. Or excuse me, that's what you should put for number 3. Moving on to number 4, what are substitutes to buying a new car? Substitutes to buying a new car could be a used car. It could be to save more money. It could be to keep your old car, buy a bus pass, take public transportation. It's really up to you in terms of that, but you could have put any of those there on number 4 for substitutes to a new car. Number 5, other than the price of the car, what are the other costs that you should consider when buying a car? Your biggest cost in owning a vehicle, new or used, is going to be insurance. Second is going to be gasoline. Third is probably going to be your maintenance, your oil changes, any tune-ups, headlight goes out, different things like that. And then, you know, tires, anything that you could have related into keeping that a working, safe vehicle. 6, why should you research the price of similar used Camrys before selling your Camry? this is why. So earlier, last period, I brought this up. You guys see that? Okay. So this is our local Toyota dealership. If we go to new Camrys, let me get to model. Toyota Tundra. Sorry, let me get back down to it. I shouldn't have refreshed the page. Come on, go, go, go. Highlander. Corolla. And Camry. Okay. So let's say you're researching a brand new car, and this is our local Toyota dealership here in Santa Maria. You see Toyota Camry hybrids in the neighborhood of 32,000 to 34,000. Now, you can look at a normal non-hybrid Camry. You're looking somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 35,000 for those vehicles. So why you would want to look at used Camrys is this. Here are some used Camrys. This model year is only 3 years removed from a new one, right? And then you can look at the price difference, right? It's almost 50% cheaper than a new Camry hybrid model. This one here is a 2018. It is a 4-cylinder, so it's not a hybrid. The miles are relatively low. You should do about 12,000 miles. This is obvious. This is like a really good buy. Holy crud. 46,000 miles. It is basically 4 model years, 18, 19, 20, 21, 3 years in service, no accident, Carfax report. And then looking at the photos, you can see here, let's see how the interior looks. That's pretty nice, right? Looks clean, no damage. So one of the reasons why those spots look weird, I don't know if that's from the spray to clean it or what. No, it's weird, huh? It's either the spray to clean it they didn't wipe down right, or it's like sun damage. That's kind of weird though, isn't it? Or maybe it's just the reflection. You'd have to see. Huh. Crazy. So when you look at this, this is why a lot of people will look for particular deals on used vehicles, right? So this is 4 model years, only 3 years behind the brand new one here, right? But then when you look at the price, right, you're saving $13,000, $14,000 off of that. The other thing that you want to consider, that insurance is your biggest cost in operating a vehicle outside of the car payment. If you have one, the less you pay for your vehicle, the less amount or the smaller amount of money it's going to cost to insure it, right? And that just makes sense because insurance is an investment based off of the asset itself. So obviously an insurance provider for a $50,000 car or a $35,000 car is going to charge more than for a $17,000 car. So that is why some people will not buy new as well, is because of the insurance cost that they would have to incur, right? Insurance costs they would have to incur. Any questions so far? All right, so let's move on to the next question. If you decide to purchase a new car, you'll need to sell your Camry quickly. What can you do to sell your used car faster? Why will this strategy work? One of the things that you want to know is that when you are going to purchase another vehicle, whether it's going to be a new car or like we found here on this Carfax website, a used vehicle, you're going to get more money if you sell your car privately than if you try to turn it in as a trade to one of the dealerships. So you always want to sell that on your own. You could do it on Craigslist. You could do it on Facebook Marketplace. There are a number of different places that you can do it, but just remember that you will do better off selling your car privately than doing it through a dealership, because you'll make more money, right? They have to buy your car, then turn around, prep it, and sell it. And the margin between what they pay you and what they sell it for is their profit. That's the only reason they do that. They're not going to give you full value of your trade-in. Number 8 says, other than those mentioned, what are some other factors that influence your demand for a new car? Your income, the attitude. When I graduated college for my bachelor's degree, one of the things that I wanted to do was buy myself a new car. That's what I promised. I said, I'm going to buy myself a new car when I graduate college. And so all I wanted was a Chevy Camaro. So I'll kind of show you what this looks like. So I graduated in 93, 94, I think, for my bachelor's. So I'll show you what this car looked like. All right, so that's what I wanted to buy. I wanted to buy a Chevy Camaro. It was like 93 or 94, but this is the body style, right? So took 5 years, right, to get my bachelor's degree. Graduate in December. I graduated basically mid-year. And so I go straight down to the dealership, right, and said, hey, this is what I want to buy. I don't want the convertible. I want the hardtop. It was Arizona. It's 100 million freaking degrees in the summer, right? I go and sit in the Camaro and my head hits the top of the car. I was too tall, right? 2.5 freaking years of work, right? So we talk about other factors, right? The attitude of the fact that I fit in that car or didn't fit in that car was a problem. So I was, to say the least, devastated. I'd spent all that time saving for a car and couldn't fit in it. So holy snikes. Number 9 says, will you buy a new car, but a slightly used car, or keep your old car? That's your personal opinion. So I've got a friend in Minnesota, and he will never buy a new car. He's never bought a new car in his life. Both of his daughters, the oldest one now is like a freshman in college, same age as my oldest son. And then his youngest daughter is a junior in high school. And they were both big soccer players. So they travel all over. They live just outside of Minneapolis. So they travel to Chicago for these tournaments, Madison, Wisconsin, St. Louis, Kansas City, et cetera, right? And he wanted, because they travel, you know, a couple of girls together in families, he wanted this Suburban. He goes, but I'm not buying a new Suburban, right? That's like $55,000, $60,000, because I'm not buying it new. So he literally took like 1.5 years to find a Suburban with low miles that had a clean track record, no accidents, right? No major problems, no recalls or whatever. And he still drives it today. He says, well, when the youngest one is off to college or whatever, he goes, I'm going to start looking for this, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just going to be like 1.5 years, 2-year process for him. So this on number 9 is your personal preference. Remember to submit this through Canvas. And if you want now, go ahead and bring up your determinants of demand, and we'll go over that together. Okay, so just still checking in. No AJ yet, right? No David yet? And no Jessica yet? And no Mateo yet. Those are the ones that have not come in yet. Okay, so the second thing that we had you do, as I said at the beginning, we covered the 4 determinants of demand. So remember, the 4 determinants of demand are a change in income, a change in attitude, a change in the price of a complementary product, change in the price of a substitute product. And so what we had you do was look at these different scenarios and try to determine whether demand increases or decreases. All right, so on this, and you just put this out there, but on this, we did this yesterday, right? Population increases, you have more people are gonna buy more things, right? Less people, population decreases, fewer people to buy things. So you had these remaining 10 here. In an increase in people's income, what did they normally do? Buy more or less? Demand go up or down for that?
Up.
Up, there you go. Decrease in most people's income, go up or down? Demand. Demand would?
Decrease.
Decrease. All right, now we get into the price of substitute products, right? So substitute product, remember from yesterday in our determinants of demand, best example is butter and margarine. Butter and margarine can be used basically the same way, have almost the same flavor, and can be used one instead of the other. So let's say, for example, we have butter and we have margarine. They're both roughly priced the same, right? The price of a substitute, let's say margarine goes up for some reason, right? What happens to demand for butter? Go up or down?
Up.
Up, yeah. The cheaper one, because it is nearly the same, is going to go up. And so then that means if the price of a substitute increases demand, the price of substitute decreases, that means demand will decrease. Most of these are in pairs. Hopefully you figured that out. So if one was positive, the other one is probably going to be negative. When we get to complementary products, remember yesterday I talked about the best example of that was gasoline and automobiles. And I talked about the price of gasoline 5-6 years ago, what have you, was like $4.79, $4.85 a gallon. When gasoline went up really, really expensive, the demand for SUVs and trucks goes up or down?
Down.
Yes. Is what? Down, yes. The price,
Down.
yep, down. The price of the complementary product goes down. Demand is going to go back up. All right. Hold on just a second. We had one more come back in. Okay. Sorry, we just had somebody come in. All right, so now we are on, we did complementary. Did we do complementary goods? Or did we just do substitute? So this is increase, this is decrease, this is increase, this is decrease. Price of a substitute increases, the other substitute's demand is going to go up. Price of a substitute decreases, the other substitute is going to go down. Prices of complementary goods, this was the gasoline and automobile example, right? So when gas goes up SUVs and trucks are going to go down. When the price of gasoline goes back down, you're going to see an increase in trucks and
Coach Bear, thank you.
you bet, my pleasure.
I've gone over to the room yesterday. They had delivered some. I want to return those.
You got to love that. Okay, so gas goes back down, the demand for SUVs and trucks goes back up. When something becomes very, very popular, right? Something becomes a fad, is that going to increase demand or decrease demand?
Increase.
Increase is correct. Very good. And that goes back out of style. So we know that when it goes out of style, fewer people are going to buy it. Demand will decrease. And then on this one, there's an expectation that the price of a product will fall soon. So yesterday I talked a little bit about the importance of a product in a person's budget. And we talked about TVs, right? And TVs generally go on sale. High definition televisions, retailers that sell TVs generally go on sale right around the Super Bowl. So if you were looking for a TV basically in January and you expected that product to go on sale in February, are you going to buy it now or are you going to buy it later? In other words, buy it later, right? So if you expect something to go on sale, you're not going to buy it, and that is in effect going to decrease demand. Now, on this one is probably the trickiest one of them all, right? There's a fear that the economy will go into a recession where many firms will fail and unemployment will increase, right? So we have a sort of a panic situation. And the way that I explained this last period, and probably is the best way to explain it, is if you remember last March, our state was the first one essentially to shut down almost everything. The first thing that people did was go to the grocery store and buy all of the meats and all of the staples that they could find. If you remember those first couple of weeks after the shutdown, when you went to the grocery store, shelves were empty, meat cases were had been basically just sold out. You couldn't find any beef, right? You had trouble finding chicken. There were a number of things. The lines to get into Costco to buy toilet paper, right? All of that. Generally, fear and panic will cause, right? Will cause an increase in demand, because people want to make sure that they get everything they need before things, go to heck in a handbasket, right? So that one is probably the trickiest one, but just remember that fear creates demand, right? The fear of something not going to be around, the fear that we're not going to be able to buy it later, that we won't be available to buy it later, is justly going to create all of that. Does that make sense? Okay. So make sure that you have submitted that. And those were the two things for this unit, and we went over that together. Last thing that we need to do is the review for the unit. So I will put the game code in the chat room. Let me open it up. And I'll also put it on the screen. Okay, so the game code is 630-6518. And it's kahoot.it. All right, so demand is what? Right? Demand is the amount of goods or services a consumer will buy at a particular price at a particular time. So remember yesterday, we spent a lot of time talking about this is from the point of view of consumers, this entire unit. Next unit, we'll take a look at what businesses view this as. All right, what does the law of demand state? Right? Demand goes up, price goes down. Demand goes up as prices go down. So blue and yellow are both right. So if you were one of those two, that's right. Remember, the law of demand states that price and quantity demanded go in opposite directions. Demand goes up as prices go up is not true, right? This one is absolutely not true. Both of these are right, right? Demand goes down as prices go up. We know that is true. And then when prices go down, demand will go up. And so that's what makes that correct. All right. All right, a demand schedule is what? Right? A list of price and quantity demanded points for a good or service. That was the table. So yesterday when we drew out the table, right? We had a table like this. We've got price here, quantity demanded here. We talked about hot fudge sundaes at $2. There was 0 requested. At $1, remember there was 10 requested. That's a demand schedule there. Okay, a demand curve is what? Demand curve is the graphic illustration of that demand schedule. So it's a graphic illustration of price and quantity demanded of a good or service. And so remember, we had quarter of this. We had price here. We had quantity demanded here. We've talked about this was the origin right here at 0, 0. And then we had a curve that slopes down like this, and the corresponding points on the demand curve from the demand schedule. What is utility? The amount of satisfaction a person gets from a good or service. Utility is about satisfaction. All right, marginal utility is known to us as what? The amount of satisfaction a person gets from one additional unit. So yesterday we were talking about pizza, right? That first slice is really, really good. Second and third slice, you get a little bit less satisfaction from each of those pieces of pizza. How many determinants of demand are there? There's four, right? We talked about this beginning of class. A change in income, a change in consumers' attitudes, a change in the price of a complementary product, a change in the price of a substitute product. So there's four determinants of demand. A change in discretionary money is the best example of this determinant. Income, right? Change in discretionary money is best example of this determinant, income. Margarine and butter are best examples of which determinant of demand? Substitute product, right? Substitute product, similar in the use and taste. A bad review of an anticipated new product would be an example of this determinant of demand. Attitude, right? Attitude. Talked about it yesterday with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The worries of the blood clots that may be associated with that vaccine is going to lower the demand of that. And in the alternate will probably increase the demand for the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine. Gasoline and automobiles are examples of this determinant of demand. Complementary product. Those two things go together. Normal goods are goods that what? So remember yesterday we talked about the difference between a normal good and an inferior good. A normal good is a good in which when people's income rises, the demand for those products also rise. All right, inferior goods are demand goes down as income goes up. More people make, the less they buy of the inferior good. A decrease in overall demand moves the entire demand curve which direction? Moves the demand curve left. So remember what we're talking about here is your demand curve. Remember, there's a y-axis and an x-axis. We have price always along the y-axis. The quantity demanded would be along the x-axis. And we have a demand curve here. We'll label the original demand curve D. We know that this is the origin. And we know that the origin has a value of 0, 0. So if we have a decrease means that we move closer to 0, right? So that would mean that our new curve, right, would have to be closer to 0. So it would be movement to the left, right? Movement to the left. That makes sense? Any questions on that? It's kind of hard to picture without seeing it, but that would be the picture of what this says. A decrease in overall demand will always move the curve to the left. It will always go closer to the origin, right? So just find the origin. If it asks for a decrease or it talks about a decrease, the curve will move closer to the origin. If it's an increase, right, it would move away from the origin. All right, an increase in overall demand moves the entire demand curve which direction? Right. So it'd be the opposite direction of what we just said, right? Just went over that. You have a demand curve, right? You've got price. You've got quantity demanded. You have the origin here. You have a demand curve here. We'll label that original demand curve with D. Right? We have an increase, right? An increase, as it says right here. Increase is farther away from 0 because we know that that is a value of 0, 0 at the origin. So that means our new demand curve would be somewhere out here, and we would label that D1. All right. All right, butter and margarine are what type of products? Substitute products. You could use one in place of the other. Gasoline and automobiles are what type of products? Complementary products, right? You can't use an automobile unless you put gasoline in it, if it is a combustible engine. A pen and pencil are what type of products? Substitute products, right? You could use either a pen or a pencil on a sheet of paper. A pencil and paper are what? Complementary products. Complementary products. An increase in overall demand will do what? It's going to shift the curve to the right. Increase in overall demand will shift the curve to the right. No change in demand will do what to the demand curve? Do nothing. It's going to stay the same. A decrease in demand is going to do what to the demand curve? Shift the demand curve to the left. All right, revenue is what? Revenue is the amount of money made by a business on a particular good. What is total revenue? Yep, the amount of money a business makes on all of its goods. And then the last one, pricing policies. Okay, so remember the reason that this one is a decision to raise prices. Remember, elastic means that a good's quantity demanded will change greatly even with a small change in price. Is the decision to lower prices. This would be inelastic, right? We could change the prices a lot and demand is going to stay relatively the same. This one is an example of unitary, right? We keep prices the same based on elasticity, the demand is going to stay the same. So if we want to change demand, right, for something and expect a great change in the quantity demanded, we have to base it off of its elasticity, something that's very responsive to a price change. All right. All right, there we go. Okay, so let me reset this. The only thing you have to do between now and next Monday is this review game and then your unit test. So if you're on a normal device, you can click on this and you can play the review game as many times as you want. Your game pen is if you have to use a tablet-like or phone-like device, you have the app, that's the game pen to get in. You can practice that as many times as you want. And then you will take the test. And as usual, you'll log into School City. You'll have the test booklet on the left-hand side. And you will put your answers over on the right-hand side. All right. So that's what you need to get accomplished between now and next Monday. Don't forget, if you're one of the ones that is, if you are coming back to campus, Tuesday will be last names A through L. Wednesday will be last names M through Z. Make sure that you have your tablet and it is charged and ready to go. Everybody will Zoom as normal. Everybody will Zoom as normal on Monday. So Monday at 3:15, this test 4 will start showing up in Aries. And so that's what you want to make sure that you get done. All right. We went over both of these assignments that you had yesterday together, so that those should be submitted. And then this is the only thing you have to do between now and next Monday. Remember, the test is available from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. daily. All right. Have a good rest of the week. If you have any questions or concerns, you can stick around. I'm here.
Hello, Joe.
Hello.
When can I come back and put an extra screws on those arms that you're?
Well, you do it now if you need to.
Yeah, it'll take me
let's see.
like 2 seconds.
No worries.
All right. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
I'll be out of your way.
No worries. Okay, who's next? Who's got a question? Okay, so Alexa, I can check that. Let me check right now. Did they find the other screws or did you have to go get some?
No, you can't really see where these screws go, but they go in there. But the fabric is covering where the thread is.
Oh, boy.
And they had too big of a tip, so they weren't able to get it in there.
They never make it easy, do they?
No. This is kind of like the movie, no instructions included. We got you though.
Yeah, you're right. You messed up. Okay, so. All right, so Alexa, check it now and make sure that it looks right to you. It should be fixed. Right, who wants to go next? Cassidy, Amanda, Orase, who wants to go?
Thank you.
You're welcome. We'll see you on Monday.
Have a good day.
Yep, take care. Anyone else?